And now, more Utalk. Now,
Kyle and Lana, welcome to Utalk.
Thank you. Good morning from Thailand. Good morning.
Good morning. I love it. Okay, now you got to tell our audience, where are you?
We are in Thailand on the Thai-Burma border.
14 hours ahead.
Oh, that is crazy. Well, I was going to say thanks for getting up, but you're already up. You know, thanks for, you guys have some great people working with you because they've been working hard to coordinate, 14 hours, and it worked out great. I mean, this is awesome. How many countries are you guys working in at the present?
Currently, we're in Thailand, Burma, and now Brazil.
Ah, interesting mix. And that's hopping around a lot. Burma and Thailand, not too bad, but then jumping down to Brazil is a whole nother story.
Yeah, so we're feeling it right now because we just got in from Brazil into Thailand, so we're really feeling it. It's the jet lag. So even when you're asking what time is it, we don't even know.
I love it. It's like, I don't know. I'm awake. I got to talk to this guy. So we're going to. No, I know what that's like. I remember flying my first trip to Brazil, and I was going to be speaking at this event, and I had no time to get anything to eat or whatever. Flew in late, got up early. And I got done doing this session that I was supposed to do. And I said, okay, I really need a cup of coffee. They said, okay, come here, Steve. And they hand me this little thing that's like, it looks like a thimble. I said, no, you guys don't understand. I want coffee. I need coffee. And they said, just drink it. And it's like my curly hair went straight. It was coffee.
Yeah, that's like, no joke. Okay. Brazil coffee is no joke. I had to train myself on that.
Oh, man, it's great stuff. But, you got to be prepared for it. The goal of Life Impact, because I want to jump right into this, is to rescue children who have been sold into prostitution or child slavery. I have trouble wrapping my head around that's happening, and it's happening more than we realize. But being sold into prostitution, child slavery, as well as those who are victims of abuse, abandonment, extreme poverty, and I think you guys are seeing it all. Lana, take us back to the start, would you, of Life Impact. And there's somebody named Lily, I believe, if I've got the story correct, that plays a key role.
Yes, her name was changed, obviously.
Yeah.
And she did, and she's the reason why now hundreds of children are here rescued in safe homes and family-style safe homes here on our border. But I guess it would start over 22 years ago, about 23 years ago. I heard, this is before child trafficking, child exploitation was a sexy, hot topic. Nobody had even heard about it back then. I was 24 and heard about this and came and started a prevention home with 52 kids. But what had happened was we had heard about children's virginity going for as much as $3,000 in Bangkok. Bangkok was the armpit of the world for child exploitation, just for exploits against children. We had heard about businessmen coming to sleep with children to take their virginity to think it would bring luck to their business, or people with HIV coming in old wives' tales thinking that it would, if you slept with a child, it would take away HIV. So I heard this 23 years ago, actually, and I just knew we had to do something about it. And an opportunity came with some missionaries and launched one of the first homes. It was a prevention home. Our whole plan was prevent, rescue, heal. So we didn't know how to rescue yet. So we started with prevention while we were working to rescue. Started with 52 kids in a prevention home, started finding out what was really going on, getting the country here in Thailand. At that time, Thailand was #1 in the world for children sold into prostitution or children involved in prostitution, forced into prostitution. Because there's no such thing as a child prostitute, but children are sold for that from their parents, because no child chooses that, right?
No, exactly.
So in all of that, we had the prevention homes. And then about, 15 years ago, there was an 8-year-old girl. She was sold for $24. We were at one of the local, on our border, there was just all these, we didn't have air conditioning. We didn't even have an escalator. There was just outdoor kind of brunch places. And we were at this outdoor place eating, and this little girl came up to me begging, and she said, 10 baht, 10 baht. And I just heard in my heart to go with her. And I said, I'm not going to give you money. I'll buy you food.
Sure.
And,
Sure.
and I said, I'll buy you food. And she said, come with me. And so I knew to say yes, because I heard that in my heart. She said, come with me in Thai. And so I said, okay. So she jumped in the back of my 4x4 pickup, and she invited all her street kid friends. She started pointing in the way to go. We pulled up into this shack, this wallless, it was kind of like a squatter drug area.
Huh.
It was 2 stories, holes in the ground. All the walls were blown out, just rice sacks hanging there. Animals in the area, just everything. I'd never seen anything like that. I'd already been a missionary here in Thailand. We'd already worked in prevention, a little bit in rescue. So we had already seen a lot, and I had never seen anything like that. I'm just following her lead, following her cue.
Yeah.
We go upstairs with her. We sit on the ground away from the hole so we don't fall through. And she sits on my lap. She's 8 years old. She sits on my lap, and all of a sudden her mom starts saying she's going down to Bangkok. And it was about 3 hours. It was 1 o'clock at that point, and she was getting picked up at 4. And I said, no, why is she going to Bangkok? No. And I said, what? Why? And she said, no money, no money. And I started negotiating with the mom. Please, I'll put her in school. I'll help you guys with rice, please. And she said, no money. Her sister's already there. She's selling flowers. What I didn't know was this was a begging ring. And what happens is, if you've ever seen Slumdog Millionaire, it's these begging rings, and they get them used, they break them basically. And they get them used, it's grooming, and they get them used to just mentally working for money, being out all night, getting beat, being under, like in slavery, captured by fear. If they don't make a certain amount of money, they get beaten. They get made in, if they try to run away, they get beaten really bad, and they get made an example too. They get raped. And it basically is like breaking them, breaking their will to run. And as soon as they get to a point where they can trust them to go out and sell flowers, and they're broken in, then they'll sell them into the sex slave trade. So it's like a gradual kind of a graduation for them. So there were these rings, these begging rings, that eventually these girls will go, and these little girls, she's 8 at that point, but at about 10, 9, as soon as she starts developing a little bit more, they'll sell her into the sex slave trade. But I knew about the begging rings. I knew about this progression. I'd already been in the country. We'd already been fighting in child exploitation. So we were already in this kind of line of work. So I knew what was going to happen. And I said, she's not going to sell flowers. I said, please don't let her go. Please don't let her go. And she said, her sister's already there. What later on I would find out is the whole generations were sold. The grandma was a prostitute, sold the mom. The mom was a prostitute, sold the aunt. And the aunt was basically the one that sold all the cousins and everybody else into this Indian mafia trafficking ring. And so all of them had been sold down from generation to generation. And so I'm negotiating with the mom, telling her please. And then finally she said, no, that I already paid the traffickers. At that time it was about 600 baht, which was $18. She said, I already paid the traffickers. They'll kill me if they come and I don't give them to her. And then so we're talking. I said, what if I just knew, I tried every other option, and she wouldn't take it. And so I just knew in my heart there was no other option but to pay back the traffickers the money. And so I said, what if I pay back the traffickers and you let her come with me right now? And she said, and I really believe it was an act of God, because I mean, for her to not get that money, what happens is when they're sold down to Bangkok, they make so much money. I mean, when they're in sex slavery, they have to sleep with 10, 20 guys a night. And then so in that, they make money off of all of that. Well, they send about $50 a month back in a secret account. So 1,500 baht, which is nothing compared to what they sell this girl over and over for. So basically she was saying she's not going to get an income. If I did that, I took away her income and her future. So that's why I say I believe it was an act of God. So at that moment she said, okay. And I said, okay. And she said, yes. She said, but I already am in debt even more to the traffickers for 200 baht more, which is 800 baht, roughly $24. I said, okay, I'll pay back your debt to the traffickers and let her come with me right now, because I knew there was no other way. There's no other way. So finally, after all the negotiation, after everything, this little 8-year-old girl's looking up at me, and she said, teacher, in Thai, teacher, let me go with you. Teacher, let me come with you. Please, teacher, let me come with you. And in Thai, she's telling me this. So finally, we negotiate, we settle the deal. We get down, we get in my 4x4 truck. I roll up the windows. Thank God they were tinted at that time. Roll up the windows, start to drive off. And as soon as we drive away, it was exactly 4 o'clock. I didn't realize it, but the negotiations were about 3 hours. As soon as we drove away, the traffickers came. They were coming up. And she said, that's who I was going to go to Bangkok. That's who was coming to get me at Bangkok. She's 8 years old. She doesn't know all the details. And she said, that's the one that was coming to take me to Bangkok. And we drove away just in time. And from that one girl, like, you have to remember, I didn't know anything about her. I just met her at a cafe, so I didn't know her name. I didn't know where she went to school. I didn't know her exact age. I didn't know anything. I don't have any paperwork on her. I don't have anything. And as we're driving, like, we drove away, we got into the city, and she pointed to an organization. It's a famous organization, everybody would know it. And she said, I went to school there. So I pulled over the truck, and I walked in, and I said, hey, do any of you, and we had collaborated on them on some other things before here on our border. And I said, hey, do you guys know this girl? Like, do any of you know this girl? And they said, how did you know her? What happened? And I said, she came up to me at a cafe and said, we knew she was going to be trafficked. And I said, if you knew, why didn't you do anything about it? And they said, we can't. They're illegal. They're Burmese. They're trafficked from Burma to Thailand. There's 60 women and children trafficked daily on our border. We can't do, they're illegal. If we do something, the border control come after us. The police will come after us. All the brothels on our border are owned by the police. And they said they're illegal. We can't do anything about it. And so I'm talking to them and talking about the situation. And they said, there's so many kids like this. They said, we have 12 that we know they're about to be sold. And I heard the Lord again speak to me and say, you do something about it. And so I said, what if I do something about it? And they said, if you do something about it, we'll get you 12 children tomorrow that we know are going to be trafficked down to Bangkok. And I said, okay, get me the children. We're going to find the homes. We're going to do something about it. And so that's how it all started, with one 8-year-old girl for $24 doing something about it.
Unbelievable.
12 turned into 60. Now we have almost 100 in Thailand. We at one point had 24 in Burma. Now because of the war, those numbers are down. And so because of the civil war going on. But this one 8-year-old girl for $24 started our rescue phase of Life Impact International.
You know, that is absolutely amazing. And I'm listening to you say, okay, now 12 turns into this 12. Yeah, but it's like this, all of a sudden, boom, you know, God puts this on you and you're saying, okay, I'm going for it. And you weren't sure what you were going to do with them or where you're going to take them or anything else, it sounds like. And yet, I mean, it's grown. I mean, that is such an amazing story. And to think now, you know, 3 countries and you said 100 in Thailand you have?
Yeah, that's only in our rescue. So we also do prevention, and we have thousands in our prevention. Thousands of children in Thailand, Burma, and Brazil.
The numbers are staggering, and I'm going to go back to something you said a couple minutes ago where you said you had never seen anything like this before. Yeah. I've traveled to 30 countries now, and I've seen some pretty crazy stuff, but I've never seen that. And I don't know whether people protected me, kept me away from it. You know, I did have my life threatened a couple different times. And I remember being in the Philippines, we had to leave very quickly and not go to another area because leaders were saying they're going to come get you if you go there, you know, that kind of thing. But to see this, and I mean, I'm just, you know, I've heard about this, but to hear you talk, you're there, you've seen it, you've felt it, you've touched it. I'm having trouble wrapping my head around it, that a man would pay to do this, and a mother and a grandmother and an aunt and you know, just down this line. And I don't condemn them. You got to eat, you got to live, but there's got to be a better way. And what you guys are doing is a better way. Kyle, let me jump to you for a minute. And you're 18 years old, if I got that right, correct?
Yes.
And you had to raise support to be able to come and join Lana in this amazing rescue effort. What motivated you? I mean, had you made a quick trip to Thailand and said, oh, I see this, I think I can help, you know, or Brazil? I mean, what? I mean, it's huge. It's absolutely huge.
Yeah, and I feel so grateful because, you know, what Lana said and also what you said, I feel like growing up in America, you never see anything like this, and neither have I. And all throughout this trip, I think there's various moments where I would sit down and say, like, you know, this is crazy. Like, it's the kind of thing you can't comprehend until you get to go there and see it with your own eyes. And even the past few days, I've been away from home for a month, you know, traveling all over Brazil, now Thailand. And I think just recently, the last few days, it started to hit me, and I started to recognize just how big it is that God is doing through them, you know? And I don't think it's something that most people understand. And I think it's for various reasons they don't, maybe because they're sheltered, maybe, you know, people don't want them to see it. But I feel very blessed that God has unveiled my eyes, and he's planted this desire in my heart to serve in this way. But yeah, so Lana, she told me my mom had been hitting her up for like a year, and she was like, my son wants to travel with you. My son wants to travel with you. So I couldn't travel with her. I was only 17.
Yeah.
And Lana happened to be in America, and she like finally
just
got
happened,
back to my mom.
right?
She just happened. No, that's really how it is. She's such a busy lady. But she got back to my mom, and they're on the phone, and she was like, is your son willing to travel with me in a week? Is he willing to carry my bags, and is he willing to help me like do everything wherever I go? And my mom looked at me, and I was like, I guess so, And I honestly couldn't tell you why. Mean, Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I didn't know what to expect, and I couldn't tell you why I wanted to, other than the fact that I just felt the Spirit leading me here. I really don't know why. And I think as the days have started to pass, I've started to understand more and more what God wants me to do and why he's calling me into specific areas and the things he's revealing to me. And yeah, so the number of money she gave me to raise was much more than I had or than my mom had, because you gotta realize flying from America to Brazil, to various states in Brazil, and then to Thailand is a lot of money. And it's funny because the amount of money, I never worried about it one time. And that's why I say the Spirit was really leading me. And I gave it to God, and within 4 days, I had all of the money I needed to travel.
Whoa.
$6,000.
How much?
$6,000.
Yes.
$6,000.
And then also more than that to cover, my living expenses while here. Food.
Sure.
Yeah. And it's funny because people continue to donate. And I told my mom, like, oh, maybe people shouldn't donate anymore. I don't need any more money. I'm here, and I'm going to be coming home soon.
What's wrong with you?
And when we were in Brazil, I felt really compelled by the Spirit. I was like, I need to come back here. And because I skateboard in America, that's what I do. And I felt led to create like some sort of skate camp for the children in Brazil. And at the time when I was coming here, I didn't know that. But God was already making a way financially for me to come back.
He's going to come back and do a skate camp for the kids there in a really vulnerable, at-risk area that never had anything. This is an area where kids sell their bodies for rice and beans. Like, that's how vulnerable, that's how at-risk it is, that's how exploited they are there. And he's going to come back with a friend and do a skate camp for them, skateboarding camp for them. He already got the skateboards donated and everything like that. So isn't that awesome?
Oh, Kyle, that is so cool. And you know what? I don't hear fear. I don't hear hesitation. God has confirmed things for you, it seems like, over and over and over again. Now, go back when you were younger, early teens or whatever. Were you doing things at that point to help people? I mean, obviously not this, but were you feeling compelled to be, you see something, you try to help, you try to do something, or did it just happen later?
I feel like I could say I was a good person, but that doesn't mean anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Of course, if I saw someone struggling, there's that part of morality that most of us have that, causes you to feel bad for that person. But God has really just been doing the work in my life from 17 to 18. This past year, he's really been doing things in my heart and pruning things out of my heart, because before that, I honestly feel like I was quite a mess. And to see how quickly he's done something in my heart and how quickly he's opened my eyes, it's really amazing, because I don't know. I have friends who ask me, and I'm like, I don't know what happened. I don't know what changed.
Sure. You just know something changed, and it was dramatic.
And that's the grace of God. I really do believe that's the grace of God. Yeah.
No, I would concur with you. I mean, it's such an awesome story, both of the stories, and now coming together, and then you coming back for the skate camp. And that's a whole nother thing we should talk about at some time, And I love that, because I take it that skating is a passion for you, and it's something you enjoy, and now you're going to take it and use it. Nothing is ever wasted, It's,
no, not at all.
I mean, that's one of the many hats I wear is that of a professional drummer, and I started playing professionally when I was in 7th grade. We played our first gig, and I think we got paid 50 cents to play at this girl's birthday party. But it's interesting to see how that gift and that ability has been used repeatedly and continues to be. And like you with skating, we definitely are going to have to talk to you again when you do that. Because that's amazing. And to go into an area like Lana, like you were saying,
It And that's part of it. That's why we had to wait till he was 18, because I'm like, the areas that we go in, they're very dangerous, especially the favelas in Brazil. And I mean, these are where kids, their only hope is to be a drug trafficker or a drug trafficker's girlfriend, you know? And so it gives them a hope. It opens their world that they've never had other options, that they don't have to sell themselves, that's all they've seen is exploitation. And there's other ways, you know? So it's amazing for this. I mean, we didn't even expect this development, but that's why he had to be 18, is because he had to be able to go into these dangerous regions. And now seeing God used what was in his hands. You know, that's what we say, you know, what do I do? How do I get involved in this fight? And we always say, what is in your hand? What is in your hand right now? You know, and even you see what's in a 18-year-old hand is a passion, and he's able to use that to help fight child exploitation. Like, that's incredible.
It's awesome. You know, in that whole concept of what's in your hand, I think we waste a lot of time going, well, if only. No, don't if only. What do you got right now, right here? What can you use? Okay, now you guys are a voice for the voiceless, and you're working hard to rescue children and ensure that they never, ever have to face the same kind of trauma and abuse again. I've heard you say exploitation a couple times. What are some of the forms of exploitation that you guys see?
You know, in Thailand, it's different. In Thailand, children are trafficked. Like I said, 60 women and children are trafficked daily on our border down to Bangkok, down to the red light district. So in Thailand, it's labor trafficking. Child labor still exists. Child slavery still exists. A lot of baking rings that I told you about. Children working, and they get sold to be housemaids into richer, more affluent households, and then they get exploited there, and then they're sold like slaves in slavery. And then, of course, the sex trafficking. They're sold. You know, it's always been, but what they're realizing with drugs, you do it one time, but with the child's body, you can use a child over and over again. So that's one of the main things here in Thailand. Now in Brazil, that's where I got shocked, because I always heard Thailand was #1 in the world. But in Brazil, when I went there, it was crazy, because I had my Thai daughter that I've had from my prevention home since she was 14. And she's been with me all this time. She came with me to Brazil, and she said, Mom, I don't think Thailand's #1. She said, I think Brazil is. She goes, at least in Thailand, hidden. And she goes, in Brazil, it's in your face. It's on every corner, children being prostituted. And so can you imagine if that's in your face, then what's hidden underneath? And she said, in Thailand, like, you have to look for it. You know, you have to be involved in the underground rings. Here, it's right there in the corner. And what we saw is children, the over-exploitation of children, the over-sexualization of children now in Brazil now. And that's actually what our fight is in Brazil, is the over-sexualization and exploitation of children. And with that, they freely sell their bodies for rice and beans, because that's all they've seen. That's their only way out. That's all they've ever known. That's all they've seen. It's so relevant around them. That's all they see. And so the fight in Brazil is different with the exploitation of sexual abuse. That's the only way, you know. So in Brazil, it's a little different than Thailand. So we see trafficking, we see sex slavery. I even have in Thailand, we had baby trafficking. So at one point when we first got to our border, they were selling babies for about $18. And one of my youngest victims was a 1.5-year-old baby boy when I took
Lana.
So it was baby trafficking as well. And it's still very real on our border. We're one of the only ones that will take babies on our border still. And so I see it. We see they're sold into the begging rings. They're forced to beg. But then when they're begged, it's just a small step into sexual exploitation and sex slavery. So those are the different forms that we've seen.
You know, it's almost inconceivable what you're saying. Selling babies, exploiting. It's like we've lost our mind to get to this point where this kind of thing happens. You know, we know it's real, but it shouldn't be. And no conscience. And you know, I can't even imagine. It's bad enough somebody wanting to abuse a child, 8, 9, 10, but then when they're taking babies. Now go back to Brazil, because I've been there before. I'm just kind of curious, whereabouts in Brazil are you seeing this?
Yeah, so we're in 3 places. We went up and down Brazil, seeing the most at risk, most exploited places for children, and we landed on 3 places. I mean, that country is huge, right? It's the size of America minus Alaska. And so we went up and down Brazil, and we landed in 3 places. One is the Amazon, where there's a lot of sex tourism. For Thailand, the sex tourism comes from people from Australia, from Asia, in this region, and in Europe. But in America, in the Americas, it's the beaches of Brazil. It's the yachts that are on the Amazon River, and children are sold along the Amazon River. So you have these rickety huts along the waters, and basically these big yachts that come for sex tourism parties. They set the parents will sell their children, or the single parent homes will sell their children to these boats. They'll have parties with them, sex parties with them on these yachts on the water. If something happens to this child, they'll tie a stone. Like, let's say something goes wrong, they'll tie a stone to the child, throw them over on the other side of the boat, and basically send the rickety wooden boat that they tied to the side of the ship back with a stack of money to buy the parents' silence. And so this is happening. This is a regular occurrence. So that's the Amazon. Right. I met a little girl that did stuff for a banana for her brother at 5 years old. She was 8 years old at the time. She came into the safe home in the capital city in Manaus, and basically they were telling me, the owners of it, that's all she knew. So she'd say, I want a cupcake. What do I have to do for you for a cupcake, is what she'd tell them. What do I have to do? So this is very prevalent in the Amazon. In some regions, 9 out of 10 homes are being sexually abused or sexually exploited. 9 out of 10.
9 out of 10.
In some villages. And so these are the straight statistics from the missionaries there, from the boots on the ground, from the people that work in there. So that's why we targeted the Amazon. We're starting the first safe home in the interior of the Amazon right now. And so that's what we just got back from. And then the other one is the north, an area we're at in the north. We call it the Serra region. There's a book called Highway to Hell, and it's the BR 116, and that's where children are trafficked from the truck drivers up to the beaches and all along on the truck stops. And so that area is very destitute, poverty stricken. I mean, that's where they have, we drove through it just this one time, this time again, and she's like, you see this town? That's why there's nothing here. So they have these big parties here, and their hopes and their dream is to get pregnant from doing a sexual act, so then they have that support from that person from the big city. And that's where children sell their bodies for rice and beans. It's where starvation is still happening. I thought, as a missionary for 22 years, I thought starvation was only in India and Africa, and it was a thing of the past. I didn't realize, because of inflation, because of poverty, that it is very real in Brazil. So kids are still selling their bodies for rice and beans, for bananas. And we saw that. They're doing it at the truck stops, 11, 12, 10-year-olds at the truck stop. So in that region, that's where we targeted, was the north in that area, because it is where kids sell their bodies for rice and beans. Girls sell their bodies for a cell phone or cell phone minutes. That's what captured my heart. One girl at 13 years old, she invited us in her little adobe house. When she opened it, there was a refrigerator that, of course, didn't work. They had no electricity, and it was just broken down. They got it on the side of the road. But she opened up the refrigerator, showed me a whole refrigerator of food, and she was proud of herself, and she said, this is what I made. And she, with no shame or anything, she was only 13. We went back a month later, and she wasn't there anymore. She was trafficked somewhere. And so that's what captured our heart in that area. And then the third one, so we have Amazon, we have the north of Brazil, Serra region, and then the last one is Rio de Janeiro, where the favelas, some of the most dangerous favelas, we're in City of God. There's documentaries about it, and that's where the only hope for these children is either to become a drug trafficker or a drug trafficker's girlfriend. That's it. And they, own the brothels. And we recently got a crack house given to us from the drug traffickers that is now a prevention center. And we're seeing about 250 children. And as soon as all the remodeling's done, that prevention center alone, it can reach up to 800 children. But because of come from, and they have so much individualized needs. Like I was just talking to my project director, and they're dealing with a 14-year-old girl that goes to the crack area and actually sells herself for drugs, and she might be pregnant. We need to get her out of there. We need to get her out of the city, and this is her way to get out. So we're dealing with such specialized cases in such a vulnerable, at-risk area, very dangerous, one of the most dangerous favelas in the world area. And so we're in those 3 areas, in Amazon, Serra, the northern area, and then Rio de Janeiro.
That's great. Now, see, I have not been to any of those areas, but I was just curious. So, Kyle, I'm just thinking as a guy, And I mean, have you felt like you just want to scream and say, somebody, why won't somebody do something?
Yeah.
I mean, so I'm sitting here going through my mind and my Italian blood is starting to boil, and it's like you want to go there and grab somebody and shake them. But I guess it's just a way of life, and people go about their business. They don't want to get caught up in. I mean, that's what I'm assuming.
Yeah, and that's a great question, because I asked Lana this actually. I said, so how do you have compassion for not only the victim, but the person who is, putting the victim? Exactly. So, and I think that's really where the heart of Christ comes in. Mm-hmm. And trust me, it's difficult to see, like you said, as a guy, to see men who are a lot stronger than these little girls doing these things to them, because it's you want to say, pick on someone your own size. Yeah, exactly. But that's where we as Christians have to be different. And that's how we are going to make a difference that is effective and long lasting.
No, that is so awesome. I mean, it's talking about making a difference. Okay, this is a huge problem because it's everywhere globally. And even though we don't want to admit it, a lot of people, it's happening in the United States. A different level, different way, that kind of thing. There is a solution, and I like how you laid it out on your website. And I would encourage people to go to what is your website, by the way? People need to check it out.
Yes, it's www.lifeimpactintl, short for international, .org. So lifeimpactinternational.org.
We'll put that in the notes for the show. Those of you that are with us on the show right now, check it out. You've got to check it out. But I love that. What's the solution? And then, kind of where do we begin? First thing, because you mentioned the three that I was going to highlight earlier, prevention. What are some of your prevention projects?
Yes. So what we do is in these areas, in prevention, we target, our strategy is to target the pools where the traffickers or people prey on the vulnerability of the poor, or where these kids are being sold from. So on the Thai-Burma border, it's the local garbage dump, it's the slums, it's these areas where mothers are desperate and they're about to sell their children. So we have, as soon as Kyle gets off, he's going to go out with our prevention team. We never sleep around here. So they go out every day into these vulnerable areas. And basically we do awareness, child trafficking awareness, but also they know my body. It's my body. It's my right. Nobody has the right to touch me. So basically, if somebody's coming to talk to you about giving an offer for your child, don't do it. So this is where we go. We try to work with the families where they're at. We're trying to meet them at their most vulnerable state and have them to not sell their children. It's usually single moms with about 5 children. So we try to meet them, try to help them have solutions to not sell their children. And then also we work with the children and we teach them their rights, safe touch, their rights. And then we also, let's say that they're hungry, then they're not going to listen to us unless their bellies are filled. So we bring them food, or we do in the sidewalk Sunday school, and we do activities. So that's how prevention looks in Thailand. We have a full-on prevention team that's all they do is prevent child trafficking. They're not our rescue team, and they're not our house parents for our family-style safe homes, but they're just our prevention team. And that's all they do is prevent child exploitation. Wow. So we spend just as much energy in preventing than we do rescuing. So that's how it looks on Thailand. In Brazil now, our prevention has exploded. So we have places like the Crack House, and now they're turned into dream centers. We just got a warehouse in the north that's going to house another 500 children. And then in Amazon, we got given an abandoned, it's like a community area, and actually has a skate park that Kyle's going to come up and do that up there in Amazon as well. Nice. But it's an abandoned community area that's turned into, again, a drug usage place, and it's right next to the red light district. So we take those areas. I mean, we're like masters of taking these abandoned crack areas, and we take them, we turn them into, it's like a dream center. So we give them some kind of vocational training so that they don't have to sell their bodies, and they can learn how to make something with their hands and make money that way. Some kind of skills, some kind of trade, some kind of hope for their future. We feed them because they're starving and they're hungry. We do basic math, reading and writing. We have a 12-year-old that came to one of our prevention projects in Brazil. She actually at 11, a little girl wrote that, and she said, I thought I was going to be a prostitute like my mom and my grandma, but now I could read and write, and I started to read the Bible, and I realized I can do anything and I can be anything. This is an 11-year-old girl. So we teach them how to read and write, basic math, their basic language, because they can't really speak their language properly. They don't have opportunities to go to school. tutoring, counseling. We give them therapy. We have on-site social workers and therapists, actually, to give them counseling, therapy. That's how we found out the 14-year-old girl was selling her body under the bridge in Rio for crack. And so we work with them in that way, but then we give them Jesus, and he brings hope to their heart and light to the darkness on the inside of their soul. So that's what we do in these. They're kind of like dream centers where kids can be kids again and they can dream again. So that's what prevention looks like in Thailand and Brazil.
Now, what about rescue? You know, I mean, that's such a huge thing, but how is this accomplished?
Yeah, so rescue, you have to be careful and work with the government. So in Thailand, we're a part of the anti-trafficking task force on our border. It's a task force where we're networked with the chief of police, the head of border control, and the head of the hospitals, as well as the head of social welfare department. So we work together. There's 5 on that anti-trafficking platform, and we work together with them, and we're the area that they send the children to. So after a rescue happens, my child protection officer is on that seat, and so is my social worker. She's actually another daughter from my home. We're on the seats with the government. After a rescue happens, they come through Life Impacts. We have a hidden safe home, and then we have the Promised Land where they become a part of our forever family. So we work together in conjunction then with the government in this area. We are the model for the border, in that they call it basically the border model of prevent, rescue, heal on the border. And then in Brazil right now, we're again networked. We have our social workers, and we're networked with the government, and they're the ones who begged us. They said, we have so many cases, a stack of cases of children, and we have nowhere to send them. Will you start a safe home? So we go in, we network with the governments, and we say, how can we help? What can we do? And we become a part that way and work within the government alliances.
You know what's awesome is you guys have that respect from the government. You have that respect from other entities. And I mean, that doesn't come lightly.
No.
But to have that, and by the way, I can understand why you say you never sleep, because I'm getting tired. I'm thinking, I'm busy, but I'm thinking, but you get energy, you get motivation when you see that you're being used, when you see that you're making a difference. All right, quickly, heal. I mean, that's so huge. What's that process?
So HEAL is family-style safe homes. Okay. So basically, I believe that healing comes within a family. And so after we rescue these children, we don't just put them in an institution. There's enough institutions. There's enough of these different things. We have an emergency transition home, we call it. And at that point, children know that they're safe. They know that we're not the abusers. They know that because the good guys have always been the bad guys in their life, the mom, the auntie, the teacher, whoever has been the one to save them. So they have to basically know that they can trust us. The first 2 weeks they have night terrors, they wet the bed. So we love on them. We let them know they're safe. We let them know they can trust us. And at that moment, after just that healing process begins, and after that trust begins, we transfer them over to our family style safe home setup, where they get a mom that doesn't sell them, a father that doesn't abuse them. They learn, they feel. We have hybrid family style safe homes. So basically what we do is we bring the whole family. So the parents and their biological children, and then we put the rescue children in that family style, and the whole family loves on them. And so I don't just have this big safe home with 50 children. We do family style safe homes with 4 to 10 children, and they get integrated and healed within this family. So if you come to the Promised Land, we have 2 Promised Lands. We have 18 family style safe homes total, 18 sets of house parents here in Thailand. And then I have a children's home director, a missionary. She's been with me since she was 19 as well, and she makes sure it just all runs according to our hearts. And if you go, you will not even know that these kids, that this has happened to them. It doesn't even feel like that. And so we have a girls and a babies Promised Land, and then we have a boys Promised Land as well.
It's strategic, it's intentional, and I love the concept of healing in a family.
They need to see it so they don't continue this cycle of exploitation in these nations. They have to break this cycle. So we're raising up a generation to break the cycle in their own nations, and to see this healing, receive this healing, so they can be a part of the solution and be a part of the healing, and not continue the dysfunction and exploitation in their nation. It's a generation that will change it.
No, and that's what it's going to take. Okay, now let's switch gears for a moment. And again, on your Instagram page, change a life, change the world. That is absolutely astounding, and it is so true. To be a change maker, talk to our audience, teens, young adults, Kyle's demographic, if we can use that word. What can they do to make a difference with this problem? Okay, they're not old enough, let's say, to travel.
Right.
What can they do here, where they live, where they go to school? Are there things that they can do that they can be involved in?
Yes, absolutely. I say it like this. I believe I was rescued to rescue. And I believe each one of us have something in their hand, no matter what the age. Okay. I know a girl that started doing shirts. She was only 14. Her name was Lily, actually. And she started making shirts. And she said, basically, I am not for sale. I am not this and this. And she said, I am valuable, loved, beautiful. And she started to bring awareness to child trafficking and child exploitation. Yeah. And I think she raised like $3,000 for us at 14, just at 14, and didn't come on a trip, didn't do anything. She sent it only for the children. And I have 10-year-olds that made bracelets and sold bracelets. And in that, they brought awareness to what's happening in their generation. So I believe that this generation's powerful. I believe that this generation can raise up and save their own generation. I believe that they can be a voice for the voiceless. I believe that they can stop it. I believe that they can bring awareness to it. I believe that they can do something. You can do something like escape camp. You can do something where, or you do something to raise money to send it to help your generation, your age group. You can fight for those who can't fight for themselves right there, right where you're at. So basically it is, what is in your hand? What do you know how to do? I mean, I had 7-year-olds, 8-year-olds, 9-year-olds make putty and sell it. You know, what is that in the thing when that was a big deal? And I think there was like $1,000. And I just had a girl, it was super cool. She was a refugee from this border. She got sent to America. She actually came back and saw what was happening to her people. And she went back and she said, I need to do something. And I think she was only 20. And she's like, what can I do? So she started making egg rolls. She made egg rolls. Okay. She's Asian, so she made egg rolls. I think she raised, it was like at least $1,500 from selling egg rolls, you know? And it's like
That's
amazing.
Crazy.
It's incredible. And so I think you have something to give. You do. There is something on the inside. There's some natural gifting. There's some natural talent. There's something that you know how to do. I said everybody has something that they can use to fight this in their own generation, in their own nation. We've all been rescued to rescue. We all have something to give.
I like that phrase. We've all been rescued to rescue. And you know, a big phrase that we use frequently here at Utalk is, are you mad? Are you making a difference? Yeah. Don't just talk about something. Don't just complain about something. Don't just turn your back on something. Be a change maker. You know, what can you do? And maybe it's one simple thing, but it's still making a difference.
Yes. Sorry, let me wrap up with Change a Life, Change a World. Actually, that comes from rescue to rescue. Like, my life was changed when I was 19 years old. And at that moment, I knew that I was supposed to do two things. And one of those two things was to fight for innocent and vulnerable children with my life at 19 years old. And that's how I came here at 24 years old and started a home for 52 kids. And so I believe that can get in your heart at 19 years old. I believe it can get in your heart at 17 years old. I remember wanting to send my Barbies to Africa because I saw a Feed the Children commercial on Christmas and crying at 8 or 9 years old saying, Mom, I want to send my Barbies to Africa. I want to send my Barbies to Africa. So, these seeds of destiny are planted in my heart. And I believe when you get one life is changed, just one life, then if you look, so at 19, my life was changed. And so I wanted to make a difference. I was rescued to rescue. And then that ripple effect. So then I came and started a home for 52 kids. And then that ripple effect. And then that ripple effect. So I believe that it's just that one stone that gets thrown into that water, that one encounter, that one hit, that one collision with destiny, and then it causes a ripple effect. It's change a life, change the world. It just takes one of us to grab a hold of it and grab a hold of the destiny that we're meant to live and to grab a hold of our purpose, and that will create a ripple effect. That one will reach 5, those 5 will reach 10, those 10 will tell 20, and it'll end up creating a world of difference.
And you know, so many young adults struggle today with purpose. You know, do I matter? Can I make a difference? And here's one area, many areas where they can make a difference. And it's getting focused right. It's getting your eyes turned around. And, you know, when you start helping somebody else, your life has changed. You're no longer going to be the same. You know, when you see that you're being used to make a difference, this is huge. I am so glad. I don't know if you knew that a guest that we just had on about a month ago, that was the first time I met her, Jasmine Rennie, is the one who connected us with you. And I know she's involved. But, you know, there again, we love being able to tell stories and talk with people like you guys that are making a difference because it's so huge. I can't thank you enough, guys, for joining us. Once again, if somebody wants to follow you on social media, what is that handle?
It's Life Impact International. Life Impact International. We're on all of it. Facebook, Instagram, all of it. Our YouTube, we have videos of our rescue on our YouTube. So Life Impact International.
All right. Well, we'll make sure those are in the notes. And again, website one more time.
www.lifeimpactintl.org. So short for international.
I personally, and I know our team is stoked about what you guys are doing to make a difference. And having been in some of these places, I was in Thailand briefly and never been to Burma, but seeing just a little tiny touch of what this huge stuff you guys are seeing. Kyle, I'm excited for you and just to see what changes God does in your life and for your future, and excited about the skate camps. You definitely got to get a hold of us once you've done those so we can talk to you about that and just see what that experience is like. Skating is still super popular in many places of the country, but the world. So, this is great. Thank you very much for taking the time. We are very grateful that we had the privilege of being able to interact with you and hear this story. So we will look forward to staying in touch with you and hopefully getting with you face to face, whether it's a brief stop you guys have in the States or a stop that I might have or one of our other team members might have in a country you're in. But please keep in touch with us. Let us know what you're doing so we can let other people know. It'll be on YouTube. So you can share this with somebody else, and I definitely would recommend it because this has been, it just, my heart is like beating, so fast because there's so much that you've shared with us. It's almost overwhelming, but you guys, thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for the commitment you've made. Thank you for the lives that are being changed. And thank you, Lana, for Life Impact International. What a great thing you guys are doing. And again, please stay in touch with us and let us know what's happening so we can let other people know what's happening and what you guys are doing.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Thanks for having us.
This is Utalk Radio